All right, what is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Best Self Blueprint. So, as you all know, the mission of this podcast is to bring on people who have the knowledge, the insights, and the experience that'll help you move that dial towards becoming the best version of yourself, whatever that means to you. So, this next guest is one of the most inspiring people I've come across, not just in the OCR world, but the world in general. He was born with a collapsed lung, had 3 shoulder surgeries while serving in the military, 2 foot surgeries after tearing 4 ligaments in his foot, and had an open heart surgery after suffering an aortic dissection. He has quite literally come back from the dead after coding for over 2 minutes, and doctors and experts told him that he would never be an athlete again and that he could no longer be much of a runner. Luckily, he took it upon himself to test that, and now he is earning the highly taxing, very highly taxing Spartan Shield by doing over 15 Spartan trifectas in a single year as one of the very, very, very few aortic dissection athletes in the entire world. He's shown the OCR community and the world in general that you have the ability to take back your power. And I am so excited to have him explain to you the mindset and the work ethic that allowed him to do so. So to officially welcome Josh Koehler, how you doing?
Thank you. It is good to be here. I'm extremely humbled by that intro. I've been through a lot, as you mentioned, but I'm still learning and still growing through the sport of obstacle course racing. I just found it a few years ago, and it was so eye-opening and so life-changing in contrast with my sedentary lifestyle that I had before that I just wanted to try everything that I could to keep it rolling. And a lot of my continued persistence is just a matter of stubbornness and not wanting to give it up and not wanting to recede back into where I was before I started.
Yeah. So a couple things. One, I think everybody's humbled by your intro, everyone who listens to it. The second thing is, as I mentioned right before we hopped on, this is probably the perfect place to start because you mentioned you were in a sedentary lifestyle for a long period of time, and you told me that you feared going back to a sedentary lifestyle more than you feared dying on a Spartan course. So I think there are a lot of people who will hear that and think like, that's really extreme. There's no way. But I actually consider that really wise because I believe that you need that level of conviction and just standing for something if you really want to make your life worthwhile. But what's your mindset behind that statement? Like, why is it more important to you to be willing to die on a Spartan course than to recede back to that sedentary lifestyle?
Sure. Let me start by saying, nobody, and especially myself, nobody wants to die on a Spartan course. And I certainly don't want to die anytime soon. I've got kids. I've got, kids that are still in the house. A daughter is still hopefully walk down the aisle. And, I have a wonderful wife. Nobody's wanting to take the risk of dying, on the Spartan course, for something, as arguably as silly as an obstacle course race. But I'm in a situation after having an aortic dissection where almost anything that I do is risky. I read the horror stories. I joined a support group, which I promptly left because of the sheer morbidity of the group. People are having reoccurring injuries from sneezing really hard or from, being in a minor fender bender or just getting up out of a chair. So it was kind of a situation when it was explained to me that the dangers of the condition that I have, it was basically like, if I exercise a lot, it could be risky. If I don't exercise at all, then my blood pressure is going to, slowly climb. And, I could have a life-ending emergency event, just from the accumulation of a bad lifestyle. So I basically took the choice of, trying to take risks cautiously, in a measured sense. And basically I wanted to get back into the sports. There's certain things that I'm not allowed to do There's certain heavy lifting that I'm not allowed to do. I'm forbidden basically for the rest of my life. But, to answer your question, I didn't want to live my life in fear. And I didn't want to sit there on the couch wondering, could I have done this? Could I have done that? And am I going to just die tomorrow anyways, because I spent, every day for the last 2-3 weeks or months, sitting in a chair, watching TV, being safe. So I basically had to choose my path. I don't get to choose how I die, of course, but I basically, had a choice in how I wanted to approach the risk. And with both sides being risky, I opted for, the more out of the box, less safe route. I kind of had enough of that. You mentioned a little bit about it. I had a sedentary lifestyle before. I was the kind of person who was always athletic or wanted to be athletic. I wanted to play sports, wanted to be a professional baseball player. None of those came to fruition. I joined the military at a young age. I joined the Marine Corps because I wanted to, be the best, and, the Marine Corps was considered the most challenging on average, respect for all branches, of course. Happy Veterans Day, to everybody coming up in 2 days. But, I wanted that challenge and got injured. Didn't get to really have much of a career that I expected. And, that was a disappointment. Had 3 shoulder surgeries. And from there was kind of a spiral of, getting a lot of negative opinions and negative advice from experts. When I had the shoulder surgeries, the surgeries didn't go so well. That's a long story in and of itself, but we'll just say that the surgeries didn't go so well. I had to have some revision surgeries, which is why I ended up with 3. Was told, that, hey, I'm sorry, but, things aren't going to work out for you to be able to do, pull-ups and monkey bars. You're never going to be that good at stuff like that again. And when I had to get out of the military, the VA doctors reviewed the status of my joints, and they're like, yeah, your joints are like a 60-year-old. So, your athletic days are over, and, you might as well just, get a desk job and, try to live your life as best as you can. So that's what I did, right? They were the experts. I was young. I didn't have experience. I didn't have a lot of people around me who had been through a lot of obstacles in life. The OCR community that I found over a decade later is filled with people who are overcoming a crazy amount of things. And, the actual sport is just a small metaphor for what a lot of people are dealing with in their life. But I didn't have that. I was just with other young military personnel, and I didn't have anybody that really stepped in to counter the advice and opinions that I got from doctors and so-called experts. And so I believed them. I went ahead and, went back to college. I got a degree, got me a nice cushy desk job. And there I stayed for the most part for over 12 years. I worked my desk job, then I came home and then sat some more in a chair after I got home. I was in and out of gym memberships a little bit here and there, but for the most part, very sedentary lifestyle. I was watching TV shows and playing PlayStation game after PlayStation game. And that was all I had, as a hobby for a large portion of over a decade. So when I finally found obstacle course racing, and when I finally got the intestinal fortitude, if you will, to try things and to rehab my shoulder injury, and just accept the fact that, it's going to be clunky, it's going to be risky to try obstacles, but I can do the rehab and I can get it as strong as possible and just have fun and at least try, instead of sitting back on the couch for 12 more years. I tried it, and, it was extremely eye-opening. It was, we had fun. My whole family got hooked on it. I got hooked on it. And, it quickly turned into something where we wanted to do every obstacle course race that we could, and we started, getting kind of obsessed with it to an extent. And we were almost like making up for all the lost time that we had before when we stayed at home and we didn't do anything out of the box, and we didn't get dirty, and we didn't play, and we didn't travel. And all of a sudden we're doing all of those things. We're, seeing the world, seeing parts of the United States that we had never seen before, seeing other countries for the first time. And, once you have a taste of that life, you realize what you didn't have before. And so, in a very long way to answer your question, when I finally came, to, the fact that I had open heart surgery recently, the prospect mentally of having a choice basically to take a big risk and try to ease back into sports, or to basically call it quits, find a new hobby, and kind of play it safe, which is what most people do. I didn't want to go back. I was like, I just came from that. I had 12 plus solid years of doing nothing but that. And my life has radically changed in the last few years. My friends changed, my interests changed, my hobbies changed, how I spend my money changed, everything that I look forward to on the weekends, and the reason why I do my 9-to-5 job, the reasons why has changed. And I didn't want to just erase all of that. So, that's basically it. I was afraid to go back. I was afraid that I might fall into depression. I was afraid that I wouldn't know what to do with my life. I was going to lose the recently acquired identity that who are you and what's your hobbies? All of that was, about to be erased if I chose to go back to where I was before. And quite frankly, I didn't want to do that. So it was a tough decision. A lot of people disagreed. Family members disagreed. There were doctors that disagreed. Some supported me in the decision. Some said I was silly for even thinking about it, and that I needed to be more realistic. But at the end of the day, my family made the decision, and we decided to continue obstacle course racing.
All right. That was awesome. So there's a lot to unpack. The first thing, kind of going back to the beginning of what you said, was it reminds me of the fact that there is a very big difference between being alive and living. And I think, unfortunately, because it is the safe, comfortable route, most people choose, like, I want to just be alive. Like, I want to make sure that I am alive, and that, like, if I'm doing that, then I'm good. And then there are people like yourself, I would put myself in this category as well, who say, what's really the point of being alive if you aren't actually living?
Right.
And so I think that's amazing. A couple other things that I want to go into, but we'll start with this, is you really laid it out perfectly. You were saying you were young. These experts obviously knew better than you did. And so you just kind of conceded and were like, yep, what's best. I'm just going to do it. You talked on it briefly, but I am really curious to dive into what was it that allowed you to instill that belief in yourself that was, okay, even though these doctors are saying it, was it really just like a shot in the dark? Like, I just want to see, or was it really like, no, I truly believe I can do this?
So I didn't have full belief in myself when I first started trying to get back into shape. It was like one of the options that you mentioned. I wanted to try because I was sick of not trying. One thing that was a bit of a trigger for me, actually, and it was not obstacle course related. I always kept myself, even over the 12 years of fairly sedentary life, I ate a reasonably healthy diet. And, I don't eat a lot of sweets. I don't eat hardly any at all anymore. But even before, I didn't overdo it on sweets, because I didn't want to, I was working a job, in the IT field, and I didn't want to be, I wanted to be in the field and have a good job and everything, but I didn't want to go full bore from being this in shape, Marine Corps person to just letting myself completely go. And I had seen a lot of people do that. And I knew I didn't want to do that, so I kept myself in reasonable shape. But I was starting to get what a lot of people call skinny fat. It's like, you don't look obese or anything, but like the muscle was, starting to completely go, and I was getting a little bit of a gut. And it was finally starting to creep up on me. And, I saw a picture of myself on our company website that had been taken at a company picnic event. And, and I was just standing there, and I had terrible posture. My gut was sticking out, and, I had head way forward, and it was like top to bottom, my no muscle definition in my arms. I was wearing a t-shirt. I was like, where'd my muscle go? Where'd my posture go? I was like, this guy looks like a guy that has given up exactly what I said I didn't want to do, and let himself go. And I was like, the experts are probably right. I'm still probably not going to be any kind of an athlete or anything, but I need to do something. So maybe I ought to try out this P90X thing that so-and-so, tried to get me to do, a year or two ago. And I called up the buddy that had offered P90X to me, and good old Tony Horton, led me and my wife through a little bit of a fitness turnaround. So shout out to Tony Horton. You'll probably never see this, but if you do, love you. Tony Horton's the man. I ended up doing P90X, kind of hurt my back through the middle of it, had to stop. So P90X, instead of taking me 90 days, it actually took me more like 4 or 5 months, because I did have a little bit of a back issue getting back into it. I had 12 years off, but I made it through it, and did P90X2 and did P90X3, and, and somewhere along there we started, catching different advertisements on TV that we might have otherwise ignored. And one of them was Spartan race. So we signed up for a race, and, I basically went from just being kind of not disgusted, but disappointed with where I was at. And basically I was not being the person that I wanted to be. And I realized that it was all on me. Nobody, made me stop exercising. That was a choice. Nobody made me not try. Nobody made me, take the safe, easy route on everything that I did and live a completely uninspiring life. But that was all my choices. So I basically made a decision to start saying yes to things. And so I said yes to an exercise program. I said yes to a race, got hooked. And, then I started saying yes to travel, and to, really focusing on the diet, and saying yes to trying to get into running shape, even though I had always hated running. But, once I started falling in love with the obstacles, I didn't want to suck so bad in the races, because of my running. And so now all of a sudden running was a priority, and that was, a huge lesson in itself. But yeah, man, I was seeing my life go by and seeing it unfold in a way that I didn't want it to unfold.
Yeah. So that's a big topic, I think, especially nowadays, is there are a lot of people who hit that point where, whether it's as simple as looking at themselves in the mirror and having that same, like you saw a picture. So it could be seeing a photo, looking in the mirror, just something that really like puts it right in front of your face of, oh, wow, I really am way off where I want to be. I think the issue is, the more common path is people are so scared and shocked when they see that image of who they are right now, that they try to like escape it and scurry away, as opposed to having that courage and wherewithal to just face that head on and say, No, you know what? I'm not going to spend too much time complaining or judging myself for it. I'm just going to take action and see, okay, what is it going to take to start getting back in the pursuit of being who I want to be and getting back aligned with that. So I think that's a really powerful message for people, is to, when you see that, don't just automatically try to escape it. Sit with it for a second, understand, okay, where are you at? Where do you want to be? Or even if you don't know where you want to be yet, what's one thing you could take to start to get away from that situation that you're in, which
Right.
is kind of what you did. So that P90X is kind of that first step of, okay, let's just get out of this state. Let's shift it a little bit. And then it was, oh, now that, my neurons are firing and wiring towards fitness, hey, there's this Spartan thing. Let's go see what that's like. And now you're at the point where you're cranking out 15 trifectas in a year, which is, I did one. I did the West Virginia trifecta, and just doing that was one of the, I'm not going to say toughest, but tougher race series that I've done. And I've done a good variety. So
Right.
to do 15 in a year is going from 12 years of doing nothing to 15 trifectas in a year
Mhm.
would really be the perfect exhibit A to anyone listening, that no matter where you're at, there's a way to improve a pretty significant amount. But really what I want to go back to is, you've touched on it a few times, of like kind of making the big moves, kind of taking those risks, cultivating an out of the box life. And then there are people, like you said, there's people in your family, there's probably friends, there's loved ones who you care about what they think, you trust their opinion, and they're trying to talk you out of it. How do you handle that? You've got experts telling you no, you've got people you care about telling you no. How do you kind of navigate that?
It's tough sometimes, and it can be really hurtful at times as well. I want to start out by saying that I have been blessed to have, people help me along the way, and my wife being one of them. When I decided to do P90X, my wife decided to do it with me, and we did P90X as a couple, and we did P90X2 as a couple. And my wife actually had a marvelous turnaround, and she went from being somebody who had never done a pull-up in her life, and now 4 or 5 years later, she's, her PR is doing 12 in a set. And most guys can't do 12 pull-ups in a set. And she lost over 60 pounds at one point, and she went from having never run a mile in her whole entire life, and now she has done several Spartan beasts and done trifectas of her own, entire trifecta weekends. So I'm blessed to have a fantastic wife, for one. I'm blessed to have the friend that was a voice that was different than the rest of the people, and that offered to let me borrow indefinitely his set of P90X discs, and to just try to help somebody else out. And after the heart surgery, I've got groups like More Heart Than Scars, that is has helped me with my return to obstacle course racing. And they, especially at first after the surgery, that had literally helped me over obstacles at first, because I couldn't do hardly anything myself. So I don't want it to seem like everything is all of my own. God has blessed me with a wonderful wife, wonderful family, and everything. But it is true, there are a lot of people, especially like coworkers and stuff. Your family members, it might vary wildly, from family to family. I have family members that support me doing the obstacle course racing, even now, and family members that think I'm absolutely crazy. But if you back up to where it kind of started, and just talk about people in general, there's a lot of people when I first started doing races that were, everybody for the most part was like, hey, cool, you did a Spartan race, what's that like? And you would tell them, And, then you do another one, and, there are a couple of people would be like, wow, you did another one, you did a longer one, a harder one, it was like, you actually traveled out of state to do one. And they're kind of excited for you still. But after you do a couple and you continue doing them, and people start to see that you might not be going back to where you were, a lot of people start kind of receding away from you and drawing away, and for a variety of reasons. For one, at first I took it personally, and I thought it was, it's all them. It's, they're insecure and they don't like seeing other people getting out of their comfort zones, because it makes them feel bad about the fact that they're not. And that is true in large part for a lot of people. But I've learned over the years to not take it so personally, and not make it so accusatory, because you are also changing as a person, as you, the individual, going through this life change and finding new hobbies. I've had to admit to myself that it wasn't just them changing their perception of me. I'm also kind of alienating other people, because I'm no longer watching the 7 series of a TV show that everybody else at work is watching. I'm no longer hopping on the PlayStation Network and playing video games on the weekend with all of these people. And so you're almost forcing a change to the people around you. You became friends and acquaintances with a lot of people because you have the same interests. And when you don't live an out of box lifestyle, those interests are going to be wildly different than somebody who travels all over the United States or all over the world for races. And some people might be inspired by it. Some people might even want to try it, but other people are going to be completely alienated because they don't even want to try that. So it's tough dealing with that whole situation, because there are people that talk to you a lot, and you used to enjoy talking to them about the stuff that you used to mutually enjoy, and you no longer have things that are mutually enjoyable. And so, like, people that you thought you were really close to don't talk to you very much, and that's tough. You have people that were once excited for you that I had a manager one time, after doing after I was doing maybe double-digit races, and they came to me one time and they're like, hey, I see that you're still doing these Spartan races, and that you mentioned that you have another one coming up like next week. When do you plan on going back to normal? And that was like, that question made me do a double take, really, and I probably wrinkled my face up and probably didn't have the nicest answer to them. But I was like, never. Like, I found something that I love. This is exciting. I had a decade of kind of a bland life. I didn't know how bland it was until I found a more exciting life, and I don't want to go back to that. I'll if you want to come over to this side, I'll help you, but I don't want to go back. And that's tough, because your relationships with coworkers will break. Your relationship with some friends and family members will break, or just become a lot different. You won't necessarily stop becoming friends, but like I said, your interests change, and they're not going to want to talk to you as much, because they're going to want to talk about stuff that no longer interests you, and you're going to want to talk about stuff that has never really interested them. And so there's not a common ground anymore. So if you go from something like I did, where it was very sedentary, to where you're trying to do a different race every other weekend or every weekend, you have to realize that your whole circle is going to change. You will have a lot of people added to your circle in the OCR community, which is incredible. But it's you simultaneously have the relationships that are kind of gonna fall by the wayside, and it's just tough.
Yeah. Yeah. And that it's like any breakup, no one looks forward to that conversation, but it I think at the end of the day, it's understanding that just like life is a temporary thing, so are the aspects of life. And as long as you're continuing to, like, the overarching message for me, at least kind of playing in the background, is you're continuing to move in alignment with what you're passionate about, what you're purposeful towards. And in doing so, you're going to lose people along the way.
Right.
But understanding, especially if you do, if you are spiritual or religious, you believe in a higher power, and that power is working things in your life, there's a reason that those people are not permanent throughout your time on this planet. I don't remember the full saying, but it's like there's friends that stay for a reason, there's friends that stay for a season, and then there's friends that stay for a lifetime.
Right.
And so really understanding, okay, that's just not a lifetime friend. Not everyone you meet is going to be. Most people you meet are not going to be. But really just cherishing the fact that you had an amazing time with those people when you were with them. They just are simply not interested in or pursuing the things you are. Wishing them the best on their journey, and then continuing on your best journey, I think, is really the best way to look at it. The final thing I want to go through before we kind of start wrapping it up is really just the logistics of, you talk about like making these big moves, living this out of the box lifestyle. For me, people probably don't listen to me as much because I am single, no pets. My job allows me to travel very frequently. So for someone who has wife, kids, all this stuff, they look at me and they're like, oh, that's great. Cute little, you can go travel and do all these things. But like, I can't, I'm not able to do that. So as someone who does have that much more established, familial lifestyle, what does that look like in terms of like planning? Is there sacrifice involved? Like, what does that look like for you when you're setting up these big plans?
So it's a crazy endeavor. It's a circus. In 2018, I got my start at the beginning of the year, and I ended up doing like 4 trifectas. I mostly did regional races. We traveled for a couple and made like took a couple vacation days, tacked on to a weekend, and made a little trip of it for a couple locations. When I decided to get a season pass in 2019 and go for what was at first going to be 40 races, I started front loading everything because of my injury history. I was almost expecting to be out for several months of the season with an injury before I could resume again and hopefully still hit my goal. And I didn't have a job where it was very flexible at the time. This year, for 2021, I'm at a different employer. But in 2019, I didn't have a very flexible job. And the 2019 season, when I did 80 races, 54 of them were Spartan races. I got a 17X trifecta that year, and it was just an absolute logistical nightmare. What my life entailed basically was, on a Wednesday or a Thursday, I'd be packing my bags for Friday in anticipation of leaving out. I would basically have to go to work on a Friday with a go bag, fully packed, carry-on bags ready to go. I would have to line up the flights to where I could, leave as early as I possibly could on a Friday, and basically scream down the interstate. I was living in Atlanta at the time, catch like a 7 p.m. flight, 7:30 flight, which was usually the last flight out of Atlanta for the night. And oftentimes going, sometimes all the way to the West Coast on the last flight. And, you might, depending on how far you're flying or how many connections you have, might get in at, it might be 9 p.m. local time, or it might be midnight, 1 a.m. at local time. Then you got to get your car rental, which you had to, reserve in advance. And then you got to get to your hotel, which you had to reserve many weeks in advance. And, it might be 2 or 3 in the morning before you got to get up. And then if you're running age group, you're pretty much getting up at 5:30 or 6 o'clock, get over to the venue, in time to warm up a little bit and go. And then you have your race Sunday, you immediately clean up, and basically Sunday is like Friday was for you. And you're trying to clean up as best as you can, so you're not like smelling like mud or cow manure on the airplane. Like hopefully you'll get to rinse off at the cold wash station, soap up your your armpits or whatever, get as clean as you possibly can, throw a fresh set of clothes on, some deodorant, and then you're on a flight back. And sometimes I would have flights back where occasionally I had trips where I had to be at work at a certain time Monday morning, and I couldn't get a Sunday night flight that would work out to basically do the race on Sunday and also get back that same night. So I had to take an early morning flight Monday morning from like Central Time Zone or West Coast or whatever. And I would get sometimes to the airport, and I would have a go bag that I would have to have pre-packed in the car sitting at the airport that had Monday's work clothes in it, and go straight from the airport to work and try my best to show up, pound down some coffee, and pretend like nothing ever happened. So, I had a lot of weekends like that. The ones that we could drive to were a lot better, obviously, but there were definitely a good handful, 4, 5, maybe 6 weekends that were absolutely nightmarish, like I just described. And to pull it off, you basically, the weather had to line up. You had to have the fortune of races not getting canceled due to lightning and whatnot, and a lot of things had to happen in your favor. And flights had to line up, and basically you're rolling the dice and you're squeaking out every single possible minute of the weekend, pounding coffee all day Monday and Tuesday, and then maybe trying to catch up on some sleep and recovery on Wednesday and Thursday before starting the whole process again for the next weekend.
Wow. Yeah, that's a little more hectic than the way I typically do it, but I think it really goes to show though, like if you're really passionate about something, you can make it work. You just have to be creative. You have to be, willing to show up a little, not on your full 8 hours Monday morning, maybe, but no, I think that's so amazing. And for people listening, it doesn't have to be obstacle course racing. Obviously, me being an obstacle course racer, I'm biased towards bringing other racers on and talking with them about, that avenue, but really just take a step back and apply this to whatever you're passionate about. So if you've been neglecting going all in on a passion because you just assume that you don't have enough time, you don't have the resources, you're not able to do these things. Well, just for a second, just for a thought exercise, throw the I can't out the window and just ask, how would it be possible? If I were to really do it, how would I be able to get that done? And just simply, instead of shutting it down and saying, oh, I just can't because of XYZ, reroute that thought process and let those possibilities flow through. And then if you're to the point where you're like, okay, no, that's not worth it, that's for you to decide. But to not even give yourself the opportunity to make that possibility happen for you, you're really just holding yourself back in an area that's, causing resentment, causing that really toxic what if mentality that you were talking about, Josh, of like, I am to the point now where I would rather make infinite mistakes, but keep attempting than get to the point where all of a sudden I'm at the end of my life and I'm like, oh, I wish I would have done this, wish I would have done that. Just really making the most of it. At least if you're running 1,000 miles in the wrong direction, at least you're covering ground and you're learning something and you're experiencing, as opposed to sitting still.
And you're exactly right, because a lot of people, they don't, a lot of people won't want, after hearing what I described of how I pulled off so many races in 1 year, a lot of people are like, that's crazy. You're a complete idiot. That's moronic. That's obsessive. That's ridiculous, and in many ways they're right, so I don't try to necessarily recommend people do exactly what I did when I was trying to do so many races in a year. But I do encourage people regularly to at least try something. And because I'm a big procrastinator, unfortunately, I know that if I don't sign up for a bunch of stuff in advance, I'm not going to have, the discipline every single day to make those choices, to get up, to have the go bag packed, to have the flights booked in advance, to have the hotel booked, to have everything ready to go, unless I have to. So I will often force myself into those pressure situations so that I have to do the work, so that I have to prepare for the race, so that I have to hydrate. A lot of people say, oh, I would love to try an obstacle course race someday. Like, I see people who are like ridiculously in shape, from doing CrossFit for a decade. And I know that they would be, if they did, 10 or 12 total races, they'd be way better than I ever was at obstacle course racing. But they seem so afraid. And I see a lot of people, tell me, I just can't do that because it's just different than what they're used to. And they want to practice running and get their mile time under a certain amount, before they ever sign up for anything. And I'm like, just sign up. I was like, because whether it's you do CrossFit or you don't do anything at all and you're wanting to, ease into an obstacle course race, maybe you want to try Rugged Maniac, or you want to try just a single Spartan sprint before going crazy and doing multiples. A lot of people, they want to wait for the perfect opportunity until all the stars align, until they're in shape already. And unfortunately for most people, they're like I am, and you'll procrastinate, and without having that looming accountability hanging over your head, it's hard to show the discipline because we're all human. So I recommend to people all the time, just sign up. Sign up for a single race, a 3-race pass. If you say that you want to do a race, pick a venue that would be fun for you, that would be adventurous. West Virginia is a good one. You've raced there. It's, if you live on the East Coast, sign up for the West Virginia race. It's beautiful, it's gorgeous, but it's a big challenge. But just sign up, and get it on the calendar, and have that there where it's counting down for you. Because a lot of people, it's kind of a psychological thing. If you studied risk avoidance before, people are more motivated to avoid a bad outcome than they are to gain a good outcome. So people see other people having fun at races and they're like, oh, I want to have that too. But trying to convince them to do that, unless they sign up and have the potential to have a bad race that's going to completely wreck them, people will work a lot harder to avoid the bad situation. So you get that race on the calendar, right? And then you have that date, that's getting closer. And tomorrow it's a date closer, and next week it's another week closer. And you realize that if I don't do the work, if I don't start hydrating, if I don't start doing a little running and get my shoes broken in and get everything lined up, that it's going to be a miserable experience. People, I find a lot of times, will have better results by trying to avoid that negative situation than they will, with the hypothetical possibility of having fun in the future. Obviously different things motivate different people, but I tell people, just sign up. I'm not an elite athlete. I never was, never will be. But, you can learn to recover after a race. You can learn to get a little bit faster at running. You can learn how to get more efficient at obstacles. You can learn to get used to the cold, the hot. You can learn how to pack better gear so that no matter how cold it gets, you're still okay in most situations. You can learn and acquire all that knowledge. So I love trying to get people out there and to get out of the confines of what they feel like they have to stay in.
You and me both. You're in good company with that. Well, awesome. I think we've covered a good amount. So we'll start to wrap it up. But before we do, I always have one question that I ask everybody. Think you're ready?
Maybe.
All right, we'll find out. So for you right now in your life, what is the next step in you becoming your best self?
That is a good question. So I would say it would probably be more on a personal level than with sports. We didn't talk much about the heart surgery journey, and that's kind of widely circulated on my social media page anyway, so it's cool. But there was a lot of faith aspects with that, and when I first had the heart surgery and the aortic dissection, which necessitated the heart surgery, I came home from the hospital and I was on such a basically a spiritual high, if you will, that I was like, oh man, I'm gonna, live my life like a cliche country song, live like you're dying, and I'm never gonna yell at my kids again because that's crazy. I've seen how short life can be. I don't remember it, but I died for a couple minutes, and I had some mini strokes and they brought me back. I literally, I was at my house one day and then I woke up a couple days later in the hospital and they're like, whoa, sit still, you just had open heart surgery. And I'm like, what? So that was a shock to my faith. And I drew closer to God at that point. And I was just thankful as I heard about all of the stories about how everything went right. The person who was working the on-call at the local hospital used to work in the heart surgery center, and she was the on-call rotation nurse, received the call from 911, and was relaying stuff back and forth with the ambulance, predicted what had happened to me, and called the other hospital to tell them to prepare for open heart surgery because I'm pretty sure this guy that's inbound to our hospital had an aortic dissection, but he's not even here yet. When he gets here, I'm pretty sure we're going to have to transfer him there. So get a heart doc on the way if you don't have one there. I could talk for an hour about all the little things that I've found that lined up perfectly. And it's just like a God thing. I have no other way to describe it. And I have so many people that regularly tell me, you're here for a reason. God wasn't done with you yet, and so on and so forth. And when it was fresh, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna keep my eye open for my purpose every single day. I'm gonna never yell at my kids. I'm things that I was tempted by to procrastinate with or just time wasting stuff. I'm never gonna do those again. And you think that you're gonna maintain this high for a long time. I have learned over the course of the year that that's really tough. And I've swung, majorly in the other way. And I've had very lazy moments. I've had very, whether it's unchristian moments or just, falling into the old ways and, getting angry at stupid stuff around the house and, yelling at your kids, what you told yourself you promised you would never do again. I realized that, it's not as easy as I initially thought, and everybody's human. So I guess the long story short, to answer your question, is I've realized through the roller coaster of the last year with faith and with, just my personality and growth as a person, that, you can't just have one event and ride that event as your inspiration for how you're going to act the rest of your life. You have to put in daily effort. If you're a person of faith, that means maybe you should actually read the Bible instead of just claiming to be a Christian and not reading it. So I'm totally guilty there. And actually, getting up and doing your workouts regularly on a daily basis instead of relying on what you did last week to pull you through and kind of winging it when the next race comes up. So it's really about being intentional with the little things every day that I need to get better at and more disciplined with. And, having a better routine and having a better grasp of executing on all the small stuff instead of just having a big event and big goals that I want to accomplish and, staggering my way, from the big event to the big goals. I did it, but I let a lot of little details in my life slip by, like I stuff around the house that piled up that has been on the to-do list and the honey-do list for almost the whole year that I'm barely starting to get around to now. Those are the kind of things I need to do a better job of. The day-to-day, living with purpose, specifically each day, and not just riding the wave, so to speak.
That is an amazing answer, and it's so true. It's so easy, especially when you are living what we've been calling like that out of the box life. It is really easy to say like, oh well, like I've got this big event coming up, I'm just gonna like focus on that, I'm gonna prep for it, and then after the event you are riding what you're talking about, like riding the high of that. But it is really easy to kind of fall into that like ebbs and flow of it, as opposed to really seeing where that equilibrium is.
Right.
So that's very self-aware, and I have all the trust in the world that you'll be able to hold up that pursuit. But yeah, man, this is awesome. I am just really inspired by your story, your thought process, the fact that you took such a tough path and turned it into just a way to motivate yourself and inspire other people at the same time, which you do through your social media, your Instagram pages, where I found you. So I just want to give you all the respect I possibly can for going through what you went through and still ending up where you're at. There's still much more to come, but even where you're at right now is inspiring to me. It's inspiring to anyone who sits down and listens to this. So I want to thank you for taking the time and just laying it all out there for us.
Thank you. It's still humbling to hear from people that say that I'm inspiring. I'm a stubborn son of a gun, and I'm also kind of obsessive compulsive with stuff. I found something that I loved, that I went whole hog on it, and I didn't want to give it up. And I just enjoy being out there. The community is great. The community is addicting. It's addicting being around a community of people that helps you, a community of seeing other people. People say my story is inspiring, but I go out at these races and I see amputees, disabled veterans that are missing limbs, or dealing with crazy stuff that happened to them in a military service, military deployment, whatnot. People going through cancer or the loss of a loved one. Every single time every one of us goes out there, we're surrounded by people that are going through a lot of serious stuff. And some of the people that are going through the most serious stuff are oftentimes the most helpful and kind to other people, because they know what it feels like to be in a low place. And it's like I said, it's addicting and intoxicating to be around that kind of people that are all pulling together. just trying to get better, trying to get a little faster, or maybe just trying to have fun and do something different while helping others do the same. And I wouldn't miss it for the world.
I completely agree. And so that's actually a perfect segue into kind of how I want to wrap this up, which is for anyone listening who's gotten to this point. First of all, thank you. I appreciate anyone who's willing to invest the time in me sitting down with these amazing, inspiring people, but also I just have all the respect in the world that you are investing that time to develop yourself, to develop your mindset, your skill set, and your life. And I'm really pushing to make Best Self a community, a Best Self squad, if you will. And a big part of that is just what we were talking about, which is having that group of people that energizes you, that motivates you. And what better way to do that than to get around people who are all in pursuit of that best version of who they are. So if you enjoyed this, click the like button. If you have any questions, comments, that's what the comment section is for. And assuming you know someone who could benefit from anything we talked about, that is why there's a share button. So use all of those. If you are not subscribed, subscribe. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Thank you, Josh, for coming on, and we will catch you all next time.